What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Vanguard Live. How you doing, Zach?
Doing fucking good, man. Glad to be back in a real routine groove here, coming at you again a little bit after dark here because it's fucking crazy town. I still never adjust to the fact that it's dark all the time now. I'm a bartender, as many of you know, in addition to hosting this podcast. And now I feel like my entire life for the next 4 months is just going to be like one big night. You know, you go to work, your shift starts at 5, it's dark out. You get off at fucking 3, it's dark out. You fucking sleep until noon. You go outside, you get a cup of coffee. Now it's fucking dark out. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, this most recent addition to the weather guard, it is cold as shit in our studio. And I am now starting to grow envious of all of those podcasters that hightailed it to Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's definitely chilly out here, and it is dark, which doesn't help if you get up as late as I often do, and Zach often does as well. So, yeah, that's definitely one of my least favorite parts of the winter. I always feel super vitamin D deficient here in Kansas City. Don't get enough sunlight and shit, but it is what it is. Shout out to you, Alex. Really appreciate the $9.99 first super chat of the live stream. Really appreciate that, man. I will say that I went on the Arizona stop on his tour, and while Chris Rock was great, he sucked. So this could have just been him doing some bad crowd work. I guess you're referencing Dave Chapelle. I imagine he was on a joint tour with Chris Rock. Does that sound like something that would be the case, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, judging by this, I think that Chris Rock was on because I also think that Chris Rock might have come out after the whole kerfuffle with Elon Musk as well, if I read that correctly. We'll react to the vid later on in the show because it is fucking cringeworthy as hell and just the best kind of content for us over here at the Garbage Guard. But yeah, I mean, Dave Chapelle has been really off his game for a while. I haven't found him particularly funny over the past couple of stand-up specials. Sometimes he would say something that would make me chuckle, but like this used to be one of the all-time greats, and he's just fucking just completely just denigrated his status as like one of the next generation pioneers. Like, it was like the 70s comedians that steamrolled, 80s kind of forgettable a little bit, 90s comedians really made a big deal, and then it was like forgettable again, and then now we have the like next wave of big comedians. Anyway, Chris Rock, Dave Chapelle, both legends in their own right. But yeah, it just seems like Dave Chapelle has taken every opportunity to just piss on his own career and legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be getting into that video later of Elon Musk getting trotted out on stage at the Dave Chapelle show. It's so awkward. It's so cringy. I can't wait to react to that with you guys. I hope some of you haven't seen it yet because it's a real treat. Like I said, just gloriously fucking awkward. But thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciate that $9.99 first super chat of the live stream. And as always, we do like to start all of our live shows with a big shout out to the patrons. Thank you guys so much for the support on Patreon. You're going to find the link to that in the description if you're a fan of the show and would like to help support the work we do and keep the show sustainable as a viewer-funded independent left-wing podcast. And hit up that link in the description, guys. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Really, really appreciate the support from you guys. Wouldn't be able to do the show without you. So yeah, hit up that link in the description if you enjoy the show. Thank you so much to the patrons.
Yeah, and special shout out to my grandfather who today was trying to figure out how to get his name on the freaking board. I was like, we got him on as a patron. We'll update it next time. So shout out to you, and shout out to everybody that decides to fill out that Patreon board, and for all of our boomers out there, let you know there's another one among you. But anyway, yeah, shout out to everybody that supports us on Patreon, keeps the lights on in this bitch, and keeps a little bit of financial stability in Gavin and I's lives, which we massively appreciate. All thanks to you. Helps us come live pretty much daily over the next couple of weeks, so that'll be fun for us and hopefully fun for you guys. But yeah, did you want to kickstart the show with this Elon Musk business, Gavin?
Yeah, so this is one story I wanted to quickly talk about before we get into the Dave Chappelle show awkwardness. Let's take a look here. I thought this was totally fucking mind-blowing, and I have no idea what was going through the mind of Elon Musk and whoever else was prodding him to make this decision. Elon Musk indicates Twitter's character limit is about to jump from 280 to 4,000. That's so fucking extra. I can maybe see a justification for changing it to, say, 500 or 600 or something like that. I personally wouldn't approve of that decision, but at least I could see the argument for it, make it a bit more of a long form platform, especially if you're a journalist, someone like Matt Taibbi, who recently used Twitter to release the Twitter files along with Barry Weiss. So I can kind of see the argument turning it more into like a journalistic style platform, kind of like Substack. I think that's probably what Elon Musk is going for, and thinking that people are going to start using Twitter like a Substack. But I think it's just completely missing the point of what made Twitter special in the first place and why people like it. Furthermore, you can already make threads on Twitter with multiple tweets which spell out a long series of informational points, like Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss recently did on the platform. Furthermore, you can also just write whatever you want in like a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc, screenshot that bitch, and upload it to Twitter. People will read it just the same. So this seems totally unnecessary. And it seems like, if anything, it's just going to clog up your feed with a bunch of long ass diatribes from people that you don't care to listen to at that length. And I fear that it'll just turn into another kind of Facebook. I truly don't understand the rationale behind this decision. Again, I think it totally misses the point of Twitter as a platform, the appeal of the service, which is the brevity in large part. And again, just can't really wrap my head around this one. What was your reaction, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's a horrible strategy. I think the brevity of Twitter was the whole point. It was the synthesization of ideas, and it was one of those few times that it actually worked. Like, for the most part, we've abandoned the like LOL, ROFLMAO, TYT, like, you know, or TYL, excuse me, I fucking brain fart there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, all these like dumbass acronyms that everybody remembered in the early aughts or whatever, and they were like, it's the future, kids aren't going to know how to spell, and then we just implemented spell check on everything, and now it looks like everybody has a fucking dictionary knowledge of fucking spelling. This was one of those instances where the brevity actually worked. People figured out a way to digest their thoughts, synthesize them, and make them really readable and consumable and bite-sized. And I think people liked all of that. And that was what led to the rapid fire expansion and the growth of Twitter and its user base popularity, and why it's better for breaking news than something like Facebook. And the fact that you can follow people that are more like media figures, people that you don't actually know, and just get bite-sized information from them. Whereas the Facebook concept was like, oh, I'm supposed to actually care about like this, like, 8-page screed about, how a tree fell on your car or something. Like, okay, I don't like, it's not going to happen. And it definitely does seem like they're reaching for more of the Substack audience. I mean, the Twitter files were very publicly leaked by new independent journalists, right? Like Barry Weiss, I'm almost positive, has a Substack, and Matt Taibbi, I know for a fact, has a Substack because I'm subscribed to it. So yeah, pretty ridiculous. And if really quickly we can just throw up this little text blocks, Gavin. This is what 4,000 characters looks like, just so that people can have a visualization of that. Like, when you're scrolling Twitter, this could be one tweet. Like, Gavin, look at that. Like, I know we all read 4,000 characters, but it wasn't until I pulled this up and I was like, what does 4,000 characters really look like? That I was like, this man is on a suicide bombing mission to fucking just tank Twitter. You almost can't convince me that this is anything other than like the world's most expensive gag. Like, I don't understand what's going on, except for the fact that this dude was so rich that he was like, let me find something that everybody enjoys and just torpedo it. Just take it to the ground. Like, Jack Dorsey and some people on this website were mean to me, so I had to fucking get rid of it. You could not have a better strategy for just rapidly turning the ship around and leading it straight to irrelevance. I mean, it's almost beyond parody the way that he's gone about this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's funny, too, because like I said, it seems as if he's trying to turn Twitter into more of like a serious journalistic platform where he's collaborating with journalists like Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss to publish this information about what went on at the past regime at Twitter, revealing some pretty interesting information, admittedly, about the existence of Twitter blacklists and shadow bans and stuff like that. But at the same time, he's out here posting the most kind of juvenile right-wing memes and just being a troll.
Wow, what makes
like
it right wing, Gavin?
These kind of signal or dog whistling to the right wing. My pronouns are prosecute. Like, all right, bro. What is this accomplishing? It's not funny. It's not original. It's just cringy. And again, I think it's kind of an interesting contrast with the more serious work he's trying to do with people like Matt Taibbi. I just think this guy's such a fool, and the decisions like this to increase the character count just prove that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't understand the platform in the first place. And it's possible that he won't actually end up implementing the 4,000 character limit, because he got so much backlash. He's suggested things in the past that said is going to change at Twitter and hasn't actually followed through on it. So it's very possible we don't even actually see this go into effect. Hopefully not. But it still is just indicative of how stupid this guy is and the kind of ideas that he thinks are good as far as this platform goes.
Yeah, and as far as the fact that as he gets more and more rejection from literally everybody across the board, one of the things that people have pointed out time and time again is up until like maybe 2 or 3, maybe even less time than that, Elon Musk enjoyed some degree of like bipartisan support. He was generally pretty well liked in this country. He was, you know, a popular billionaire. He enjoyed more of a fucking like Richard Branson or even Bill Gates kind of a fucking understanding. But dare I say, even like a Steve Jobs kind of like an aura about him. Like he had just enough of the kooky billionaire from Silicon Valley, but he wasn't so awkward and obviously a robot like what's his fuck Zuckerberg. You know, he wasn't just like openly unlikable like those guys, so he could kind of, you know, flirt around in there. Now it seems like he's just run firmly into the embrace of the right wing commentariat and the right wing like fucking chatterboxes on Twitter, because they literally do not care about any of your principles. They have no reason to ever push you aside as long as you continue to like jerk off their culture war talking points, right? Like, oh, I hate the woke. Oh, I hate Dr. Fauci. Like, oh, I hate pronouns. And you know, of course, we all know it's been said time and time again. You know, it's just a dog whistle to people who like are get up all up in arms about like the trans community or whatnot. And it's always they're all, you know, there's always a rotating scapegoat, you know, for the political class. Like, oh, is it going to be the Mexican black people? Oh, is it going to be like fucking, you know, gay people? Or is it going to be the fucking like hippies? Or is it going to be like, you know, the fucking drug dealer? Like, who is it, right? Drug dealers is a bad example because this, you know, that could be anybody, but you know what I mean? The pharmaceutical companies are the biggest drug dealers and they're not going after them. So anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, by the way, Alex, for the $9.99. Really appreciate that. I like Modern Chapelle, but I thought the closer was not that funny. But this was way worse than his last special. Yeah, we're about to get into the Chapelle story. I agree that, you know, Dave Chapelle, not as funny as he used to be. I thought he made some decently funny jokes on his recent gig on SNL. I remember we talked a little bit about that at the time. But yeah, it does kind of seem that he's just leaning into this like edgelord comedy, always trying to like get canceled instead of just being fucking funny. Like I don't care how edgy your takes are, bro. Just be funny. But anyway, appreciate the super chat, Alex.
Yeah, you know, my favorite thing, and by my favorite thing, I mean my favorite thing to fucking talk shit on, is when these super rich comedians start like talking about themselves and their craft in the third person about how we're the universal truth tellers. I mean, that's what being a comedian is. It's just saying the quiet part out loud. It's just saying it's about confronting the hard truths of reality. And then it's like, really, they're just like participating in whatever deranged echo chamber like they've found that it's the most profitable to be a part of, whether that's like the Amy Schumer fucking like, you know, anti-Trump, like everything is somehow like a dig on Trump, like, we hate Trump, like, okay, I get it, that's not necessarily a punchline. With same over here is it's like, yeah, a trans woman, okay, everything, that's the punchline, you know what I mean? It's just like lazy, the most lazy kind of comedy, laziest kind of observations, but they just fancy themselves to be some like fucking oppressed class of truth tellers. It's really hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for the super chat, Alex. And while we're on the subject of Chapelle, what was your reaction, Zach, to Elon Musk being booed on stage at Dave Chappelle's show where he was trotted out for some reason quite awkwardly?
Oh God, my reaction to it was so two things. I have learned over time that I myself am kind of an empath. Like if I watch like really horrible things happen to somebody, like I get that recoil inside me. Like I just, you know, I physically feel it. Like I don't like watching, you know, people be like have some shit happen bad to them. I don't like watching kids get bullied in movies. Like that shit like makes me recoil. But I had the exact opposite experience when I watched this shit. It was like it was like I'd shot a batch of good heroin. I was like, oh, it's like an angel had transcended from my body, and I was like, oh, inject this into my veins, please. Oh my gosh, every boo was like a children's choir on Christmas. I mean, wow, it was like the most humiliating thing that could ever happen to anybody, and it happened to the perfect guy. Fucking hilarious.
Yeah, so if anyone's not familiar with what happened, Dave Chappelle asked the crowd at his recent comedy show in San Francisco to make some noise for the world's richest man. They did. Lots of booing. So basically, Dave Chappelle at a recent set brought out Elon Musk, for some reason, asked the crowd to make some noise for him and called him the world's richest man, which is accurate. And instead of receiving a warm and rapturous welcome, basically the crowd booed him, which is very funny given the fact that you would think you might expect the crowd at a Dave Chappelle show to be kind of pro Elon, given the fact that they both have run in those same sort of circles recently, the Joe Rogan circuit. But no, he got booed. And as it says here, it was a rather uncomfortable appearance for Elon Musk's Twitter's new owner at Chappelle's show with Chris Rock on Sunday night at the Chase Center in San Francisco. At the end of the show, Chappelle was talking about the need to get along and communicate with people with different viewpoints and perspectives. He invited Elon Musk on stage. The billionaire obliged, wearing an I Love Twitter t-shirt. Loud boos filled the arena, along with some cheers too. Chappelle joked to Musk, "Sounds like some of those people you fired." which is actually pretty funny. As the boos continued to ring out, the comic pointed out that all you people booing, I'm just pointing out the obvious, are in terrible seats, which again, kind of funny, but also kind of messed up. So I thought this was pretty funny. We can play the actual video of this happening. I imagine that part of the reason why Elon Musk is getting such a negative reaction, even from people that are at a Dave Chappelle show, is because a lot of people, including right wingers at this point, have totally turned on him over his censorious Twitter policies. In many ways, Elon Musk has continued the censorship policies of the previous Twitter regimes. He's even promised to reinstitute a form of shadow banning and deprioritizing certain quote unquote negative tweets or comments in the algorithm. So basically doing exactly the same strategy as the previous regime did, clearly in the interest of preserving their relationship with advertisers to whatever extent possible. But this has led to a lot of people that once defended Elon Musk, including people on the right wing, of criticizing the guy and really turning on him.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this video is glorious. We can throw it up here in a second. And to the audience members' credit, I think that they responded correctly. Like setting aside any judgment for being like, yeah, yeehaw, Dave Chappelle, I'm gonna go watch him in 2022, which I imagine a lot of people, just regular ass people, went to go see. I will say that those fucking last row seat motherfuckers that he was making fun of, $175 a pop. So it wasn't like he was talking to anybody that was broke, just Silicon Valley broke. Like, I only made $285,000 last year. How are my kids gonna go to Princeton without any loans? Like, that kind of shit. But anyway, let's go ahead and play this. If we can, let's try and make it without any interruptions, because it only gets better and better, but then we can break it down line by line, second by second, just bit by bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the richest man in the world.
I think he paid the most popular kid to be friends with him. Which he can't buy me love shit.
Cheers and boos, I say. Elon. Hey, Dave. Controversy, buddy.
Weren't expecting this, were you?
It sounds like some of them people you fired are in the audience. Hey, wait a minute. Those of you booing.
Well, to the people acting like nobody's booing, listen to this shit.
Tough on the head, like sounds like. But you notice one thing, all those people are booing, and I'm just pointing out the obvious. You have terrible seats. I understand. All coming from way up there, nigga, the last minute. Now I'm playing the niggas boo, boo.
Dave Chappelle knows a lot about getting booed off stage. I will tell him that.
Boo. Listen. Whatever. Look, motherfucker. This nigga is not even trying to die on earth. Come on.
Either way, fucking unreal. 18,000 people raining booze down at the world's least popular man. And you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, Gavin. The only thing that this motherfucker had to do, and I tweeted this earlier, it was like the only thing that Dave Chappelle had to do to like reignite his redemption arc and get back into the warm embrace of the American public was all he had to do was parade out Elon Musk onto that stage, right? Put the full-on spotlight on him, give like a magician's wave and say, look, guys, see? No bigger joke in America. You know, just voila, there it is. Ha, 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 ha. All sins would have been forgiven like a fucking waterfall. They would have washed away from him. He would have been beloved. But instead, he just said, fuck all of you, right? Like, it was honestly like a way less funny version of back in 2016 when he put out his first Netflix special and he made this whole big deal about Donald Trump and about how he wasn't fighting for you. Like he's fighting for me. He's fighting for the rich assholes. He's fighting for us. He's got my back, not yours, fucker. Right. And then that was kind of funny. That was like his last like decent stand-up special. But now it's like, no, you're doing that unironically now. You're like jerking off the world's billionaire, the world's richest man on stage in front of an audience of 18,000 people who are clearly rejecting you, right? Eating one of the fattest L's since you smoked some of Danny Brown's weed and fucking couldn't perform anymore. I got a bone to pick with Dave about that because I got a lot of love for Danny Brown, even though we've never met and never will. And he did a whole last podcast about how, you know, Dave Chappelle's like talking a big game about being a stoner, which if you know Dave Chappelle's history, he reps weed a lot. Danny Brown goes out, he gets his like finest stash of weed, like rolls it up, puts some resin in there, like, you know, gets it all going. Dave takes like 2 hits and goes down, can't perform at all, gets booed off the fucking stage in Detroit. Anyway, that was anyway, just absolutely fucking hilarious here. I love to see Elon Musk eating L's. And honestly, people always say that in the age of social media, like nobody has the balls to just like jeer somebody in public. Let the record show that is not true, because 18,000 motherfuckers in Silicon Valley just rained down an avalanche of hate on this man, and fucking good riddance. I'm glad they did.
Oh yeah, it's so cringy. And I don't know why it went on for so long either. Like Dave Chappelle brought him out there, expected the crowd to have a certain kind of reaction, and then when they didn't, just kind of let him flail around like the fucking Joker. This literally gave me energy from like the 2019 Joker movie, you know, when he's up there trying to do his stand-up set. It's so cringy, so awkward. And again, I just don't like know what they're expecting to happen or why this went on for so long, but it gets more and more awkward as it goes, and it is pretty hilarious, pretty perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to a few of the. Did we get another super chat? Why don't you guys? Oh yeah, here we go. Love this guy, Turbo Jerko. Name indicates it all. Why don't you guys get a black trans oppressed third host so you guys have a leg to stand on? Because how else would we collect from our payments from guys like you, Turbo Jerko? We rely on the hate watchers. We rely on those super chats that call us out for our flagrant white privilege. Where would we be without guys like you, Turbo Jerko? So, Gavin and I prefer to sit down. We don't need any legs to stand.
Yeah, thanks so much for the $5, Turbo Jerko. And also thanks for the $2. Hippies are discriminated against minority. Yeah, LOL. Appreciate the super chat.
They literally were, though. This is this is not up for debate. This isn't up for discussion at all. If you had a fucking 1 ounce of fucking historical knowledge, this would not be up for fucking any kind of contention. Do you know why the fucking pot was legalized? Do you know why the fucking drug war happened under Nixon? Do you know why? Like, of course they were an oppressed minority. They don't fucking exist anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? The free love movement was stamped out. It was fucking killed. Just like yes, they were an oppressed minority, and it was definitely a target of the FBI. Were they the most oppressed minority? No. Yeah, dimes to dozen. Are they going to sabotage the Black Panthers or the hippies? Of course, they were probably going to go after the fucking Black Panther Party. party, but they were definitely a part of that. And as I was running out of examples of the most ardently oppressed people in the fucking country, I did fucking reach for the fringe. I'm sorry. But anyway, I know I can't please you.
Yeah, so that was a great story. Love to see some Elon Musk L's. So funny to see even the right wing turn on the guy. But yeah, do you want to get into this Balenciaga-Gate story, Zach?
Oh, yeah, dude, I'm ready to give you my victory lap. So we teased this story a little bit ago. And I'm a man that I'll fucking full cards on the table. I like fashion. I don't dress like it when I'm on my fucking show, but Gavin will attest to the fact that when I'm bartending, I like to dress up a little bit. I like to follow like what's, trendy in fashion. And I try and lecture myself out of the fucking like massively exploitative industry of fashion. And I buy most of my clothes from thrift stores, but that doesn't mean I don't watch runway stuff. I don't look at lookbooks when they come out. I try and keep like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because it is a shameful fucking industry, 100%. But we were talking about was how, in light of all of this massive Balenciaga fucking controversy, was it going to affect their bottom line? I said, bro, you have to understand, people in the fashion world care about one thing: the party of one. What looks good on this bod right here. I was in a fucking Gucci store on the north side of Chicago one time, where I watched a man buy a fucking $900 Snoopy sweater. Okay, bro, these people are out of their minds. Anyway, so Kim Kardashian and all other fucking major sponsors of Gucci, or not Gucci, excuse me, Balenciaga, they are all still on the dole, as they say. They have not severed ties. Not like they need to collect the money. They want first access. That's the other thing that I forgot to point out in my initial argument. It's not that Kim Kardashian gives a fuck about any money that Balenciaga is getting her. They want first access to the clothes. They want to wear it and throw it away by the time you've even seen it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an interesting story from a couple of perspectives. Shoe0nHead, who's a pretty popular left-wing populist YouTuber and Twitter personality, kind of started a controversy by tweeting this out a while ago. She said the brand Balenciaga just did a interesting photo shoot for the new products recently, which included a very purposely poorly hidden court document about virtual child porn, as well as posting these photos as part of the fashion campaign, where you have two little girls holding teddy bears that are basically like wrapped up in BDSM looking gear, kind of like kinky shit. As a resident fashionista, Zach, what do you make of Balenciaga's decision to release this ad campaign in the first place? And did you find it to be in poor taste? Because I can't deny that I found this to be pretty creepy, and I don't really see a good defense for this.
So let me go ahead and give you my like personal take, and then also my kind of like rationalized taste, because I had a good talk with Salisa about this when it all went down, because we were talking about how like the New York fashion scene is just so fucking insane, and how the New York art scene particularly is just really, really isolated and niche, and fucking like crazy pants kind of snobby, like you know what I'm talking about. Like, we all have our understanding of the New York fashion and art world, and it is even worse than your understanding of it is. And I think anybody, even the people that would advocate and say like, oh yeah, I make my living, they'll fucking be honest with you and tell you that it's a bunch of crazy people that are always trying to do like something wild. It's like film times like 1000, like the worst impulses of indie filmmaking just like come even way more deranged, right? I mean, this is the kind of place that you once warmly embraced Kanye West for having a new, you know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of kookier and the more out there you are is what always gets rewarded in the fashion industry. And there are exceptions to that, like people who have a really like interesting like, you know, unique view of the world, and they're in the right place at the right time. Like, I do have a lot of respect for a guy like Tom Ford. I'm not trying to lump everybody in, but I think with something like this, it's a clear example of like just craving that shock value, like always trying to push the envelope, always trying to be like more and more crazy and deranged. And of course, this is in bad taste. Like, I don't think there's any like defending that this is a good idea, right? Like, I look at this and I'm like, oh, this is just the absolute definition of sexualizing children. And I don't really like that. I don't think that there's really any way to fucking make that okay. These are literal fucking children, right? Like, you put some 18-year-old kids in there, I stop giving a single fuck what's happening. But like, as a child, I don't like that. I mean, like, a BDSM relationship is already fringe enough. And I mean, sure, we can unpack it and like whatever, but there are some like, I mean, you're really towing a line between like abuse and like, you know, like fringe kink sexual pleasure, which again, between two consenting adults, like, that's your fucking business. I don't care. But like, you know, putting it in and trying to juxtapose what I imagine the like fucking pitch was is like, we're gonna juxtapose the like fucking like harsh fucking like romantic like fucking BDSM with the innocence of not a good look. Makes you look like fucking Michael Jackson up in that bitch. Like, I swear to God, I'm like, oh God, R. Kelly, the fucking escape prison. Like, what's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's not a good look. But I don't think that it's like a dog whistle to the like fucking like elite sex cabal of children. Like, I don't think like, as far as I know, there's no evidence to say that it's like Les Wexner and like fucking like the remaining fucking tribe of the Epstein. And like, while it is true that the other part of fashion industry that we should disclaim is that there is a lot of child fucking abuse that goes on in the fucking high fashion industry. People have done threads about this on Twitter that are very accurate, like, you know, abducting women from like the poorest countries, telling, you know, oh, you're a beautiful woman, like, come, you're like, or not even beautiful woman, like, you're a beautiful child, you're like 13, 14 years old, like, we're gonna pluck you, we're gonna do all these things, you're gonna be alone with all these like fucking creepy ass men, all these different kinds of abuse scenarios that could naturally fucking propagate, and then the people that are there because they want to be in those abuse scenarios. So all of these kind of things compound to something very disgusting, something that needs to be called out. They need to have this kind of behavior checked. I just think that it's normalized to like a weird degree in these kind of circles where like it would be easy for you to like point to like Pizzagate and be like, see, I'm connecting the dots. I don't think that's true. I just think this was a very misguided, kind of gross, like definitely pretty gross you know, photo shoot that if anybody with some sense would have been like, guys, this cannot happen, but like there just was nobody with any sense there.
Yeah, I really don't understand how this got through like quality control, or who the fuck's idea was to do this in the first place. And I think that the really weird part about it is this. Well, it's all really weird. Don't get me wrong. All the photos are really weird, and I don't think they're defensible. But the one that's the least explainable to me is how this excerpt from the U.S. Supreme Court opinion on United States versus Williams, which upheld part of federal law or federal child pornography law, made it into this ad, or how that's in any way relevant to the fashion statement aspect of this. So I almost do understand people starting to get conspiratorial when it comes to this ad campaign just because of this detail. There's no way this was accidentally included. I mean, these are tightly controlled creative settings, like a photo shoot for Balenciaga or whatever. So whoever put that there, like, that was intentional. And I just don't see how that in any way relates to the fashion element or the artistic element. It does just seem like a weird dog whistle or like Easter egg or like something bizarre in a really sick way. I don't get why that was the case. And if it had some more explanation, I would be willing to forgive it. I'm not a fucking moralist when it comes to artistic expression. I don't think that there's any room for policing content and art for the most part. But I just don't see the point of this. And this whole ad campaign to me just kind of reeks of like edginess for the sake of edginess. Like, oh, this is going to be so edgy, but in reality, it's not good art. It's not creative. It's just edgy for the sake of being edgy. And it's really just gross at the end of the day. So I do understand the backlash against Balenciaga, even though they're probably not going to actually have to pay for this financially. I don't think that they're going to, I don't think their bottom line will be affected anymore. At first, I thought it might be bigger than that when it looked like people like Kim Kardashian were going to potentially split ties with the brand, but that didn't happen. So it does seem like they're going to bounce back as a brand. But again, this is just totally weird to me. I find it really gross, and I don't understand how it happened in the first place.
Yeah, I went ahead and put on a beret so I could make the argument like a Frenchman and get away with some of these more obtuse accusations. No, I'm kidding, of course. But it does seem, I remember when I was in art school and we had to talk about like this controversy between like this French dude who had taken a bunch of pictures of like naked, like 5 and 6 year old ballerinas and stuff. And the French were all like, this is odd. This is the human form. Like, va, va, va. And all the Americans were like, bro, this is fucking just deranged craziness. But yeah, like that document, I think is the worst fucking indictment of all of this, because it makes it kind of flies in the face of like, oh, you know, I think it probably, I don't know. It's tough for me to, like, I need to see a lot of information before I'm going to be like, there was an elite sex cabal, whatever. A couple of things that come to mind that could be there for. Right, they deleted all their Instagram. Yeah, there were probably some people that were pissed off that this marketing thing went through. Like the higher ups at Balenciaga, they definitely fucking were like upset that this went down. I don't know why that document's there. Perhaps it was there because they had to double check that they were covering their ass and that they were not doing anything illegal, and that they printed out that document to see, like, here, we're still meeting the legal definition of what is free and fair to do. Why you would do that and why you wouldn't think that would lead to absolutely more skepticism, you'd have to be a fucking crazy person. Again, it's like the only out I can think of that isn't like the conspiracy theory out, which I'm like really reticent to get behind. I haven't been convinced that that's the reality yet, is that like they had that out. They were like, yeah, we printed it off. See, this proves that we're like in the clear. We're not violating any laws. And then some asshole who has like, again, no sense at all is like, here, why don't we just include it in the photo shoot? Then in case there's any question about it, we can be like, no, we had the fucking law printed off and it says we're cool to do this. And it's like, you know, what's that fucking Jeff Goldman blind? You were too concerned to, if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should do something, right? Like, hello, shouldn't have done this. Should not have done this. And I do think it's a little bit odd that, like, just because a certain kind of conservatives jump on this, that the left becomes very afraid to call it out and say, no, this is weird, this is freaky, as if it's validating right-wing talking points. I got my own talking points, guy. I don't need to spend any time validating any Republicans. I have my own thoughts, right? And what I think is basically what I laid out here. And I don't see a need to just be like, oh, like Shoe0nHead is worked up about this, therefore she's like just trying to dog whistle to the Republican cabal. Because if there's anything about Shoe0nHead, is she's been remarkably principled. And not that this is like, you know, 100% relevant, but I do think she might be like a deeply religious woman. I think that she like actually does like practice like Catholicism or something. And so like good on her for recognizing that in the Catholic Church, that's a huge red flag and a huge issue. And you know what? If that's something that's like a problem that's deeply afflicting your community, which in the case of Catholicism, it undeniably is, there is a fucking long lineage of the highest echelons of fucking the Catholic Church protecting rapists, child molesters. That is absolutely verified. It cannot be ignored. Gavin is actually one of the foremost experts of the radius of our apartment on all of the fucking crimes of the Catholic Church from ages 12 to 19. He basically did an independent doctorate. Yeah. I don't know. What did you think, Gavin? Give me more of your thoughts on it. Do we sign off? Are we all like in mostly agreement? Like, do you think it is like the Les Wexler, like, you know, fucking like Victoria's Secret and this and child, like where does your brain go? You're a rational man.
Like I said, the inclusion of that court document, I really don't see there being a good reason for. I just don't understand what the point of that is, how it in any way relates to the message of the outfits or of the expression of the costume design. Like, I just don't get the point of that. So I do understand why people got a little bit conspiratorial, although I wouldn't go as far as to, you know, do so myself necessarily. But that being said, as we mentioned, Shoe0nHead, who posted this on Twitter, ended up taking a lot of shit from people, especially on the left. And it led to her releasing a video where she broke down some of the reactions to this tweet that went mega viral and this whole scandal in general, kind of talking about some of the reactions from people who tried to cancel her, quote unquote, and tried to imply that she was somehow trafficking in right-wing talking points or anti-LGBT talking points, when I don't think that's what she was doing. I agree with what you said, Zach, that there's no reason to assume that calling out a bizarre and creepy ad campaign from a mega corporate fashion outlet is something that we can't condemn. I don't see the problem with that. As people on the left, I have no problem, you know, criticizing corporations and exploitative industries, and I don't see a problem with criticizing Balenciaga or any other company, frankly, for doing something weird and perverse like this in order to sell their shitty clothes, which are probably made in some sweatshop, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see a couple of people saying in the chat that the court document was from a different shoot. Do you know if that's true or not, Gav?
It may have been. I think it was from a similar shoot, or at least a recent one. But I'll have to look more into that. It's possible.
Okay, just curious, because that would, I mean, I don't know if that would change my analysis a little bit, because then it would make me feel more confident in my initial analysis that it was like, oh, that's going to be a juxtaposition of like innocence and then the like extreme non-innocence and like a very bad idea. Because I think the other thing that needs to be mentioned is that a lot of people who do this kind of art, They do not at all consider the fucking model. That's true from age 0 to 100. They're not like, you are a moving clothes hanger to these people, right? So I could see them just like reducing these models down to absolute nothingness besides a mannequin, and then just feeling like they can do anything with a live child that they can do with like a fucking model, because they see the model as a mannequin. That's like what really I think it is. And like I said, I don't live in New York. But I've met enough of these fucking people that are like, just fucking say that like I'm like talking to like all these fucking people, but like the aristocracy that go to like art galleries and fucking like design clothes and shit, you know, that would make sense to me. That would just make sense to me.
Absolutely. So before we watch Shoe's video where she kind of goes over this whole controversy, let's take a few super chats in. Thank you so much, Alex, once again for the 199. Abby Hoffman, a hippie, had numerous FBI files. Yeah, that's 100% true. And we're big fans of Abby Hoffman over here at the Vanguard.
Yep. Steal This Podcast was initially potentially one of the names we were going to go with. So fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good name for a podcast. But thank you so much.
That's like
Alex.
the one value I contribute to this show.
That is not true, but you did come up with a great name. The Vanguard is all thanks to Zach. I probably would have come up with some stupid shit, but shout out to you, Zach. And shout out to you, Alex. Thank you so much for the 199. Thank you, Hysteric Raider, for the $2. Court document should have ended the debate. Yep, I don't see any defense for that. It seems totally weird, totally creepy. If someone wants to offer an explanation that could maybe change my mind from the higher ups at Balenciaga or the creative director behind the photo shoot, be like, this is the secret reason because of a reference to this fashion thing, though. Oh, okay, maybe. I just don't really get it. And it does seem like a weird like dog whistle or Easter egg for other creepy elite pedophiles or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Hysteric Raider, I'll challenge you to verify that that is from the exact same photo shoot, because then I start to wonder, and again, this is me playing devil's advocate. I'm not fucking defending this shit. I'm just trying to speculate on like what all the alternatives could be, right? If it is from a different photo shoot, why put it in with that other photo shoot and pretend it's from the same one? Why do that? If it's already as incriminating as it is, like why take a fucking form from another photo shoot and insert it here? Like I'm just saying, verify. I would love it if somebody could just like fucking quickly send to us verification that those are from the same photo shoot, because that would start to make me feel a little bit more team concerned. Right now, this is team crazy people that made a really bad choice. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, let's take a look here at this article and see if we can figure that out. It says that in November, Balenciaga dropped its holiday ad campaign featuring the children and teddy bears. The backlash against the images has been swift. In a separate ad campaign. So yes, this actually was a separate ad campaign, but it looks like they may have both been part of kind of November holiday sort of themed ad campaign. So maybe a slightly different.
Seems like narrative tailoring to me a little bit.
Perhaps. Although it is weird, like how many pedophile references need to be in your ad campaigns before people start raising eyebrows? I still don't think it has any like obvious or reasonable place in the ad campaign regardless. And I understand why people would look at that with some level of concern or, just a little bit of like misunderstanding given the lack of context.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But that's why it's genius if you were trying to like fucking make this argument to include them together, which is why I get skeptical of it, right? It seems like somebody was like had the gears turning, like they already had an argument that they wanted to make. And people are always guilty of this, regardless of the political spectrum you're on. I'm sure at times I'm guilty of this. Gavin's guilty of this. You have a fucking set thing in your brain and you're trying to find evidence that supports that. So again, who said, I don't know. Who knows, right? I don't think we're going to get any like definitive answers here. Like, is this all fucking craziness? I don't think so. Are there some perverts that are involved in the high fashion industry? That's not even up for debate. There are like 10 million perverts in this country, and almost all of them are trying to get jobs with like fucking fashion models and shit so that they can like, do the Ryan Adams, Harvey Weinstein, like you'll get famous if you let me touch your pussy kind of bullshit. Like that's what they all do. They're all scumbags. So that's not up for debate either. But all I'm saying is like, is it a massive cabal? Like, I don't know. Or was it just a bunch of people who made bad decisions because you got a bunch of sleazeballs that are all trying to work with like the most like ridiculously out there artists. And that's a recipe for fucking some, things that could be actual smut, could just be confused as smut, could be alluding to smut. I don't know. I need more data.
Yeah, that's fair. Although, to be fair to people like Shoe0nHead and other critics of this ad campaign, I don't necessarily think they're all going full QAnon and suggesting such grand real, conjecture. I think it's more just like you just said. This is weird. These people are creepy. These elites are probably, a lot of them do engage in pedophilic activity. And the fact that it would even be thought to be included in this ad is just eyebrow raising. So I do think that's fair to point out.
I'm not trying to come after Shoe. I've just seen some more like again, I'm not even that familiar with Shoe. What I see of her is mostly on Twitter, and for the most part, I agree with a lot of her tweets. That was just like the peripheral of when I was looking into Balenciaga-Gate, as people are talking about it, and more like the wider interpretations from like people who are way deranged and crazier than Shoe. I wasn't like trying to compare and conflate the two.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying for sure. Thank you so much, as always, Hysteric Raider. Thanks also, Jerk Dadass. Really appreciate the $9.99 jerk. Can you guys please live react to the 8.5-minute launch of Neo's algorithm Force the Primary 2024 on YouTube? It's really easy to find, almost at 50 subs in the first week. I can't seem to send it to you. I mean, I'm down to take a look at it after this video's over if we have time. I know Zach has to get out of here at some point for some sort of a cocktail function or something like that. But if we have time, I'd be down to watch at least some of it.
Gavin making me out for one of those fucking aristocrats that I just bemoaned for a while. I told my girlfriend I would take her on a date tonight. That's the fucking layman's term for what Gavin's describing of me. But anyway, yeah, look, Jerk that ass 100%. We're down to take a look at it. The one thing that I fear as like somebody with journalistic integrity is that like, oh gosh, this like it'll just be like, how do we auction off the highest bidder? Like somebody sends us a super chat to look at the fucking video and then we move on. So yes, we're definitely down to go to your page, play it for a second, like shout it out to you. We want to support the smaller channels, get over that massive hump. But in the future, we won't be able to get to every video that somebody like just suggests, and it, it doesn't matter if it's $10 or like $1,000. I don't want it to be like a numerical monetized thing.
If it's $1,000, we'll watch your fucking video.
Gavin's like, I will watch myself get fucked in the ass for $1,000.
Yeah, don't let that stop you from trying. Zach's right, but don't let that stop you from trying. Feel free to send us any amount of money and ask us to watch anything, and we'll consider it. No, yeah, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more than $10, Jerk Dadass. You're gonna be cranking up to 50 or 60 if you want us to play this video. Just kidding. We'll absolutely take a look at it if we have time here after this video. We really appreciate the super chat, as always, Jerk Dadass, and I think we're probably going to agree with the message of your video. There should be a primary. I hope Joe Biden gets challenged from the left for sure. So thank you so much. Also, thank you for the $1.99. Shoe isn't Catholic, came from a Catholic family. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That checks out, though, given the fact that she was a big part of the skeptic community, the anti-SJW community, the super hardcore atheist community back in 2015, 2016. I feel like I remember her making fun of religion a lot, including Christianity, but I don't know the specific intimate details of Shoe0nHead's religious practices. So not 100% sure myself, but that does seem to check out, Alex.
Yep, and I myself come from a distant Catholic family as well, so anything I say cannot be, misconstrued as any kind of prejudice. I'm just insulting my own.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shu. Or sorry, thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, Shu, giving us good content.
Hey, one time she did send us a super chat. Remember that? That was based.
I know, and you're welcome. I got her to follow us on Twitter because I was like, fuck you, this isn't the real Shoe0nHead, and then she followed us on Twitter because I asked her to. I was like, yeah, but fake it till you make it, prove it. Anyway, shout out to you, Shu. Or June, I think June or July, something like that is her name. I think it's a month name, but anyway, shout out to you, Shoe0nHead. I have no idea why she's fucking called Shoe0nHead. Maybe Gavin knows.
Yeah, I have no idea either, actually. I was just trying to look that up to see if there's like some, wiki where they talk about it. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know. I'm trying to find some info right now, but I'm not going to derail the stream in order to find out. Someone let us know in chat if you know why her channel is called Shoe0nHead. I've always just taken it for granted, to be honest. Never really thought too deeply about it. It is a funny name. It's not like she ever has a shoe on her fucking head. So yeah, I really don't know, man, but appreciate the super chat.
Maybe like an homage to Vermin Supreme. I don't fucking know. Like Vermin Supreme wears a boot on his head, like Shoe0nHead, like boot. I don't know. Man, I mean, wearing your shoe on your head is kind of like an icon. Like I think it was like just like a tongue in cheek, like fuck, like outside of societal norm, kind of like a name that she came up with. But you know what? June, if this ever gets back to you, maybe put out a video how I became Shoe0nHead. That would be lit and useful in situations like this. Not that you need my advice. You're infinitely more successful than I'll ever be.
Yeah, her videos get so many views. It's crazy. It's crazy. And usually I agree with Shu. You know, I like Shu. Don't always agree with her takes, but I think for the most part, she's a good faith actor. I don't think she's a grifter. So thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate the 199. Thank you also, Turbo Jerko, once again. Donation to help your struggle of the white urban hippie. LOL. Thanks, man. Hey, man. Christmas is coming up. We gotta get fucking gifts for the kids. We gotta put a fucking roast on the table. We need all the money we can get here.
Yeah, you know what? I saw a black dude crossing the street. It caused me some emotional duress. I had to call the police and everything. So you know what? I'll use that towards my next self-care day, Turbo Jerko.
Someone's gonna clip that and put it on Twitter out of
Good,
context.
do it. I don't fucking care. I'm waiting for my first day getting canceled. Zach fucking hates X, Y, and Z community. I don't fucking care.
We'll get like 1,000 viewers for the first time in a
I know,
while.
it'll be
Zach
good for our
canceled.
career. You'll quit bitching the first time the AdSense check pays.
Thanks for the $2 Turbo Jerko. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Bruce Stevens. And we're about to get into this video, guys. Sit tight. Thanks for the $4.99, Bruce. It seems like an attempt to stir the pot with the Q cult. It was odd how people will try to claim that MAPs are part of the LGBT community. Yeah, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. Anyone saying that pedophiles are in any way associated with the LGBT community, that's a clear dog whistle of homophobia or transphobia, and grouping in. I mean, more straight people are sex offenders, more straight people are child molesters than gay people. So it's ridiculous to suggest any sort of association between those two categories. But thanks for the super chat, Bruce. I largely agree with you. I guess it was perhaps just an attempt to stir the pot with the QAnon cult. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like I said, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Or, we talk about all the time how straight white guys are the most often, not because there's more of them in population, but by a percentage, heterosexual white males of the cisgender are actually by and large, like, meaningfully more likely to be a sex offender and to be a child molester than literally any other focus group, by a meaningful, tangible margin. Guess what? We also take home the trophy for incestuous relationships with minors. There's all kinds of just horrible fucking data about that. But does that mean that all straight white guys are fucking child molesters? No, it doesn't. So even if the numbers were different, it wouldn't mean anything. But I'm just telling you, those are the numbers, and they speak for themselves, which is why it's absolutely crazy to pretend that like gay guys are out here fucking being the leading child molesters. It's like, no. I've already made my clergy molestation humor joke limit for the day, so I won't veer back into that. But
Yeah, thanks so much, Bruce. Really appreciate the $4.99, man. Thank you also, Das Bosa Fleisch, for the $5.99. Don't swap sides again. Gavin's video needs to be left and Zach's on the right, so your nose piercings face towards each other. LOL. Appreciate the aesthetic advice. Sometimes I like to switch them around like this because it makes the windows both look like they're feeding into each other. I kind of like that effect, but I think that adds too much just kind of dead space in the middle of the screen. Whereas this, we're both a little bit more towards the center, so it feels more full. Anyway, thanks so much for the advice, Das Bosa Fleisch. Really appreciate the comment and super chat as always.
Yep, absolutely. Gavin and I rocking the silver nose ring in 2022, probably permanently. I don't think I'll ever get rid of mine.
Yeah, I probably won't get rid of mine either. I really like having a nose ring. But yeah, thanks so much for the super chat. Now we're talking about that. About to get into this video, guys. Hold just one sec. Thank you once again, Jerk Dad, as Willie Bragg Show and Political Matrix did live rigs. Well, that's pretty cool, man. Like I said, hopefully we have time to get to this. Zach's going out on the town, so hopefully we can afford some time, because this shoe-on-head video is pretty long, and if we end up watching the whole thing, that might put us at our end, but we'll throw it in the folder, man. And if we don't get to it today, I promise we'll react to it at another point, because I agree we should force a primary against Joe Biden. He needs to be challenged from the left, and like I said, we'll definitely try to take a look at that video, man.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to go live like more often, even if we don't have a bunch of shit to talk about. So by the end of the week, we'll for sure get to it. Tomorrow afternoon or evening, we might go live, do something then. Same thing with the rest of the week. So we'll definitely, you're on our radar, Jerk Dad ass. We're going to try and get to you. We promise. I'm not trying to slight you over here. I know it's tough building your channel.
Absolutely. And also, thank you for bringing this up, Drew. I forgot to mention this. I was going to mention this. Rest in peace to the great Angelo Badalamenti, one of my personal favorite film composers of all time. If you guys are fans of David Lynch like me, you'll definitely know his work through the film scores of Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, etc. Some of the best film scores ever, in my opinion, and just such a unique relationship between director and composer, that being Badalamenti and David Lynch, who is my favorite director. So yeah, really, really sad day. A true loss, a real giant in the film score world. Rest in peace, Angelo Badalamenti.
Dun 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 dun. Yeah, I almost wanted to go into the full like sawmill sequence, but I wouldn't do it justice anyway. Yeah, Angelo Badalamenti. One of my favorite quotes of Angelo Badalamenti ever is when he's talking about how like David Lynch wanted him to write the music for a song, and so like David Lynch writes these like lyrics out, and he gives it to Angelo, and he's like, "What the fuck? None of this even rhymes or goes together at all." And David's like, "You're gonna figure it out. You'll make it go together. Like this is what it has to be. Like this is what it has to say." Like, and of course, Angelo Badalamenti figures it out, and it becomes like a great gem and all that jazz. But anyway, yeah. One of the all-time greats, Twin Peaks, obviously, but he also did Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and a few other David Lynch films as well, right? Because he was involved in Twin Peaks: The Return, if I'm not mistaken, and whatnot. So yeah, just a legend, an absolute legend in the film world, and will be deeply missed. I mean, one of those. I mean, him and David Lynch had one of those iconic collaborations. They were, he understood the sound that David Lynch was trying to create, the atmosphere. And to be fair, I think you could genuinely say David Lynch's films would be just never the same without the added tones and notes and melody of Angelo Badalamenti, who really spoke the same language as Lynch creatively, and that's so rare.
Yeah, a truly perfect collaboration. And yes, he scored every Lynch film post Blue Velvet, including Twin Peaks: The Return. So yeah, a true loss. Rest in peace. One of the greats, one of my favorites. Shout out to you, Drew, for bringing that up and reminding me. And before we get into this video, thank you so much, as always, Adi, the bug catcher, MVP of the Vanguard, coming in clutch with a $20 super chat. That's super generous of you, Adi. Have fun at the cocktail party. Zach, Gavin, why don't you get yourself some vegan food while he's partying? Just might have to consider that, Adi. Just might have to consider that. Thank you so much for the $20. It will certainly go towards some delicious vegan cuisine, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you. And just to specify, I'm not even going to a cocktail party. I'm just going to be like shoveling some Thai food into my mouth, and drinking an old fashioned. But shout out to you, Audie the Buck Culture. I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten to see you live in the chat. Hope you're doing well, and always good to see you. But yeah, we can rock and roll into this. I'm going to listen to the first like 30 seconds of this while I take a piss, but I'll be right back. Shoot briefly talks about her name on KKF, I think. Man, maybe I should have done my homework. But until then, it will be a mystery. That's why she was Shoe0nHead.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch that episode of KKF. I don't specifically remember that, but I'll definitely check it out, because now I'm kind of interested too as to why her name is Shoe0nHead. So yeah, really appreciate you as always, Das Bosa Fleisch. Really, really do appreciate that. And also I wanted to briefly mention, never mind, I can't find it. Let's just get right into oh yeah, Fire Walk With Me introduced me to Julie Cruz. Julie Cruz also sadly passed away earlier this year, which was just another crushing loss. Speaking of David Lynch and Twin Peaks, the music of Julie Cruz really makes that show in a similar way as Angelo Badalamenti's does. Brings so much to the mood and the atmosphere and all that stuff. So two great losses this year in Badalamenti and Julie Cruz. Really sad stuff. But either way, let's get into this video. Shoe0nHead responding to some of the controversies created by her viral tweet about Balenciaga and responding to the critics. Let's take a look here. This one's pretty spicy. Shoe seems pretty triggered by this whole affair, and we're going to break it all down and give you guys our opinion. Let's go.
Hello everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the creepy Balenciaga photo shoot you may have heard of, how I helped accidentally kick off Balenciaga-Gate, the bizarre defenses of the photo shoot, and how I lost friends over it. No, I'm not joking. This is going to be a wild one, so get comfy, get cozy. I made you some hot chocolate. Look, it's got marshmallows in it. So for those of you who don't know, because I sure as hell did not before all of this, Balenciaga is a high-end fashion clothing brand that sells ugly shit like this for thousands of dollars. I personally do not buy Balenciaga clothing. I am not a filthy capitalist. I buy my clothes on Amazon, like a good socialist. Anyway, the company is currently under fire for their new holiday collection photo shoot. And when you see these photos, you will probably understand why. One was a little girl on a couch with a very worried, sad look on her face, surrounded by alcohol and holding a teddy bear that was wearing a full BDSM harness. There was other pictures of the girl laying on the couch, as well as another shot of another sad little girl on the bed surrounded by Balenciaga items, chains, and a whole ass leash. A little weird, a little sussy. Like, the pictures just gave you bad vibes. But anyway, to make things even worse, right on their homepage, right next to that photo shoot, was a photo of a purse on a desk. Seems normal, right? But the only visible paper sticking out from under the purse, the only piece of paper with any text on it, conveniently right there, was a court case related to child pornography. Creepy. Coincidentally, 2 days before this all hit the internet, Balenciaga left Twitter. Not only did they delete their Twitter account, but they deleted every single photo off of their Instagram page.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
So I actually found all of this out because I saw a TikTok on my Twitter timeline by the streamer.
Also, that's a good point. The fact that they had to apologize and they deleted all their Instagram posts and stuff, like, I would be more forgiving and more likely to understand the artistic reasoning behind this photo shoot if they had actually tried to explain the context and be like, this is our thinking, like, this is why this happened, here's the reference we were trying to make, this is the emotion we were trying to evoke, whatever. I still would think it was weird, don't get me wrong, I still would think it was creepy as fuck, but at least if they explained themselves, it would be one thing. Instead, they just deleted all their Instagram posts, tried to scrub the internet of this, and then put out a statement saying sorry, but they didn't really explain. So it's still like, how did this end up in here? How did this happen? Why did this happen? Who the fuck was thinking this was a good idea? Again, just the lack of context for this all, in my opinion, makes it so much weirder.
So I have to put on my beret in order to make the argument as a French one more time. Okay, sir, I appreciate the offer to make my case for you today. No, I'm sorry, I won't do that forever. That's offensive to our French audience, if there is anybody. No, but all I will say is that this sounds like exactly what a corporate response would be to, like, if the fucking creative talent got left alone. So, Gavin, let's make an analogy. Let's pretend this is a film set, right? And on the film set, some like really disgusting art gets made, like some really depraved shit. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like, the way that, like, I don't know, who the fuck is the guy that shot like Serbian film? I don't know, like Gaspar Noé, somebody like fucking crazy that, like, I like Gaspar Noé. I never saw a Serbian film and I don't know anything about the guy that made it, but I know it's insanely deranged.
That movie is fucked up.
Yeah, fuck, even if Gavin says your movie's fucked up, you better go to prison. Like, fucking, I'm kidding, of course, but Gavin just likes the fucking deranged cinema a lot. This is one of those things where I'm like, I think the artist intention was like all off on its corner, and then they put it out, and then corporate managerial liberals got a hold of that information, and they were like, oh, gotta scrub our hands at that. Good thing that people in the fashion world have like attention spans of gnats. They're all going to be dead tomorrow, and a new crop is going to arrive, and we're just going to be able to move on. We're just trying to move and distance ourselves. That would be my response to that. That would be what I would assume is the most likely outcome of why they just didn't try. They would be like, oh, people have decided this is undefensible. Like, we're gonna move on. We're gonna apologize, and we're gonna like fucking like cleanse ourselves of any of this. Wash our hands of it, if you will. But that would be my like devil's advocacy.
It's definitely possible. Again, I just don't understand when you see a fucked up movie like a Gaspar Noé film or like a Lars von Trier film, at least you can be like, well, I understand why this shocking imagery is in it. Like, it has a point in the art. Like, it means something. In these ads, specifically the one with the reference to the court case, I just don't get the meaning behind it. So it doesn't even really seem like art. It does just kind of seem like a creepy ass like Easter egg. That would be my response, but I do understand what you're saying.
I mean, I think that what it was attempting to mean was kind of what I laid out, like a juxtaposition between like extreme innocence and then like extreme kink. Like, you could disagree that that's appropriate, but I think it's pretty clear that that's what they were like going for. I also would disagree that that's appropriate. I think it's gross, but I just think that if we're trying to like fucking charitably interpret it as art, that would be the best I could come up with.
Sure. And I mean, yeah, I do like a lot of fucked up movies, Lars von Trier movies, stuff like that. I just don't really view this in the same vein. I guess you could say it's a expression in the same way. I guess see it more of an advertisement. So it's a weird intersection of like advertising and art and what constitute what. And the morality of it all. It's an interesting case, but either way, let's hear Shu out and let her keep talking about this.
Brittany Venti, and she was talking about this. And I couldn't believe it, so I went to Balenciaga's website, and lo and behold, it was real. The creepy photo shoots, the CP document, everything was right there. So I made my own tweet about it, and this tweet winded up absolutely popping off. I had no idea the entire internet started talking about it, because once a tweet of mine starts to blow up, I just mute it and just move on with my day. My tweet was all over mainstream media. New York Post even called me a, quote, eagle-eyed social media watchdog. Okay. This spiraled completely out of control. People were burning their Balenciaga items.
There is just no PR team that is going to get them out of this one.
Making rap songs against Balenciaga.
Now I learn Balenciaga. They keep coming for our kids, now we need to follow. Designer brands and they high, I know hell is hotter.
Even vandalizing Balenciaga stores. Also, just so everyone knows, I am not suicidal, just in case news comes out that I was found with 3 designer bullets in the back of my head. I don't think Brittany Venti is either, so if either of us, we do not have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. The best part about this, though, has to be I was fact-checked by Twitter, and this is what they said. Although Shoe often makes comments to cause amusement or laughter, this is an authentic Balenciaga marketing photograph. It contains an excerpt from the U.S. Supreme Court opinion in United States v. Williams, which upheld a part of federal child pornography law. I've never seen one of these fact-checker things just be like, fact-check true. I know Shoe likes to get a little silly, but she's actually serious this time. I also love that it just says Shoe. Like, Twitter and I are just on a first name.
I thought the same thing, by the way. It was funny how Twitter fact-checked her in that way. They're like, she's usually wrong about shit and makes things up every time, but this one's actually correct. So, yep, legit. Checks out.
Basis now. Now, you're probably asking, Shoe,
Oh, I was just about to say, I actually made that same critical error. Like, if this ever did in some warped world make it back to Shoe0nHead, I also did just be like, oh, Shoe, what's her name? June, July, something like that. Like, we're homies. Like, you were in my chat one time. We're basically brother and sister now.
I do think it's June. And yeah, we'd be happy to chat with her at any point if she ever want to have a conversation about this or whatever else. Also, thank you so much, Pookie New Jack City, for the $2. Appreciate that. All I can think of is Yellow Melly, Blue Balenciaga. I never heard that song. Do you know the reference, Zach?
I don't, actually. Sorry, Pookie. You're all out of luck.
I'll have to look that up after the show. Thanks for the super chat, bro. Really appreciate it.
100%.
why would a high-end fashion brand pull this, like, Where's Waldo shit? Well, there are a few theories. The most obvious one is to just look edgy and subversive. Nothing like a good old controversy to get eyes on your brand. So if this was some kind of pathetic attempt at an attention grab, they sure got attention and much more. I wouldn't put it past corpos to do some weird attention whoring like this, and I definitely wouldn't put it past the fashion industry. The other theory is that this is just a little wink, a little nod to the other freaks in the industry. Think the Wilhelm scream, but for like little St. James tourists. Finally, Balenciaga, the brand itself, came out and apologized. We sincerely apologize for any offense our holiday campaign may have caused. Our plush bear bags should have not been featured with children in this campaign. We have immediately removed the campaign from all platforms. We apologize for displaying unsettling documents in our campaign. We take this matter very seriously and are taking legal action against the parties responsible for creating the set and including unapproved items for our spring campaign photo shoot. We strongly condemn abuse of children in any form. We stand for children's safety and well-being.
With Balenciaga facing a firestorm over a series of disturbing new ads, all eyes.
You know you fucked up when you got to release a statement being like, I condemn child abuse. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And ears were on their highest profile partner for comment. Kim finally released a statement on Sunday calling herself disgusted and outraged.
Meanwhile, her ex-husband, Kanye West, after going on InfoWars and saying, quote, "There are a lot of things I love about Hitler," ran defense for Balenciaga.
And now all of a sudden, everyone is so outraged and focused on Balenciaga, but then we're still aborting our kids. We're still fornicating, but we don't wear Balenciaga now.
We're still fornicating.
Shut the hell up.
So fellow paranoid schizophrenics started digging and found more creepy things in the photos from Balenciaga. And this has spiraled into a much bigger conspiracy. This is the thing with conspiracies, though. They're always rabbit holes. When there's so many things that are unexplained about the world and people just kind of feel helpless and powerless, people understandably start to look for answers elsewhere. And a lot of people took this Balenciaga thing as just kind of the rich and powerful doing what they do in secret now out in the open. Do I think this is some kind of Pizzagate thing where Balenciaga's like hiding children in their basement? Do I think they are literally trafficking children? I don't think that. I don't know that. I've never claimed to know that. What I do know is that this is a huge fuck up from a billion-dollar company. And when a billion-dollar company fucks up, who better to come to their defense than the progressive left? Can we stop pretending Shoe is an ally yet? Shoe0nHead belongs in a prison cell for hate speech. Shoe herself is basically a terrorist enabler at this point. You are a Nazi. Shoe is literally just a Nazi. Yeah, Shoe is a Nazi. Shoe0nHead is a fascist and a danger to our community. This is your daily reminder that Shoe0nHead is a Nazi. I'm sick of Shoe0nHead. She needs to go. No more. I think that if a button to deplatform her existed, we should push it this instant. Do you think reporting her vids would do anything? Hate speech and all? How about we mass report her Twitter? Shoe. This crosses a line. Shoe is a cum-dump enabler for fascist violence. Who'd expected anything else from a Nazi bimbo hag? She's fundamentally the enemy and should always be treated as such. People like Shoe and Matt Walsh are the types of people I believe committing acts of violence against is morally justified. Now, I just need to make this clear that this is in no way a representation of the entire left online. Most of the people who follow me are left-wing, and they agreed that, yeah, this photo shoot was really weird. The people who are mad about this are from a
Hey, she
pretty
talking about
small
me, though.
bubble, but nevertheless, lo and behold, I was apparently canceled. Now, I use the term canceled sort of sarcastically because I really wasn't canceled. It's kind of impossible to cancel me in general because I have 4 different fan bases and they all hate each other and me. And a lot of you guys watching this probably didn't even know all of this happened, but it was just very weird and I need to talk about this. Shoe0nHead on her way to once again use her massive platform to provide the neo-Nazis in her audience with
Now, Gavin, I have to ask, is this the video that was originally titled Why I Left the Left? And like she was like making a gag about how it was going to be a joke about how people have been putting out Why I Left the Left videos, and like she always gets accused of like being one person that's going to leave the left but hasn't actually. Do you remember when that was going around and she was getting dragged for that? I tried to find that video and I don't think it exists with that title anymore.
It is in this video. If you see here, one of the chapters in the video is called Why I Left the Left. See over here. It says Why I Left the Left. So this section of the video from 12 minutes to 15 minutes is called Why I Left the Left. But it is ironic, and you'll see that it's not like she's actually coming out here and saying, I am no longer part of the left. Like she's just joking. But some people on Twitter, like, for example, the Surf's account on Twitter posted it as if it was proof that she actually was dramatically exiting the left wing and, is now a right winger or something like that. Which I don't think is very charitable or fair, given the fact that I think she was clearly joking, as she's pointed out now multiple times on Twitter.
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty obvious that she was joking. Yeah, I thought that was pretty clear. I thought it was supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. That makes sense now that I have this context. But anyway, yeah, there's this thing on the left that we do where, like, because we all get so used to jumping down people's throats when they actively say something terrible or they actively fuck up bad, and that's deserved. It's warranted. Like, I've ripped people's ass on this show. I mean, I would be hypocritical if I tried to pretend that I hadn't, right? And we all do that. But I think that sometimes we jump the gun a little bit. Sometimes you put the cart before the horse, if you will. And I think that might be detrimental to building a majority in the long run. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. I think that that's something that I've had to look inward on over the last 18 months. And I've tried to adjust my pathology accordingly. Though sometimes I don't do a good job. Cherry, you're from fucking scare me. Stop that. I have to keep that window open, but don't go at it. Jesus Christ. This cat lives to give me a fucking heart attack. I swear to God. Cherry, come on. Get down now, please. But she's going to fucking swipe at me, and I don't want to fucking sacrifice any blood for this Gavin's cat. Yeah, fucking he'll deal with it. But anyway. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. Look, I just think that what it comes down to is, like, if somebody is concerned about how problematic some child porn looking shit looks, you can't just automatically write that off as a right-wing dog whistle, given the fact that we are living in a media age where there is constantly dialogue surrounding that. We have to be able to unpack that. We have to be able to talk about, okay, here are some potential scenarios that could be true. right? Here is how the power dynamics of capitalism manifest themselves, specifically in the high fashion industry, and why that opens the door and, dare I say, fosters intensely abuse and, you know, sometimes molestation of children and trafficking of human beings. Those things are all documented to have happened in this industry, and how that's a byproduct of capitalism, and these people being taken away from their parents, or their parents being corrupted and fucking deranged and chasing money over anything else, and how this is all a byproduct of our fucking society that, you know, conditions us to chase money at the expense of everything else, and yada, yada, yada. It's an opportunity to have that conversation like Gavin and I are having, where Gavin is taking one side of the argument charitably, and I'm trying to push back and give the other. And somebody like Shoe0nHead, who has been consistently fucking concerned about the plight of children, I think that we can at least give her that. That's like one of the I'm not that familiar with her, but I've seen a lot of tweets about that, and say that that's inherently a left-wing concern. The concern of children is a left-wing concern. I don't know. I just don't like the fact that we're gonna draw that line and like concede that ground here. Like, oh, because we're so anti the folks that are hysterical about drag queens, you know, who Gavin and I have constantly undermined, debunked their arguments, laughed at, jeered, that we now have to give up some ground on like making sure that like children are safe and happy and not traumatized and not like, no, that's all part of the same project. I don't know. Does that ever get sticky for you? Maybe I'm dying on the wrong hill, but I just noticed that might be something that we have to address. I'm not trying to lean into any right-wing culture war points. So I'm just saying that we can chalk and chew bubblegum at the same time as leftists and be like, no, actually, the plight of children is all of our concern. Here are some universal programs that would, you know, fucking change that. Here's the list of priorities I would suggest, right? Like when we talked to that actual based guy, the Santa Claus that was running for the Lone Alaska congressional seat. You know, that guy was telling us all kinds of crazy shit about the plight of children. I was like, yes, fuck, we need to make that more of a left-wing concern. And I don't know. This is all just a good opportunity to bring that up. Plus, it's Christmas time, so we're all thinking about children anyway. You know what I mean? Let's never, ever concede that ground, because it's a universal victory. Nobody doesn't care about children. Let's make sure. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm getting off on a hill here, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. And I don't agree with everything that Shoe0nHead's ever said. I think she definitely has existed in some like alt-right sort of adjacent spaces throughout her tenure as a streamer. And some of the people who she's chose to hang out with over the years, I definitely wouldn't be seen with. But that being said, to act like this recent viral tweet of hers where she talked about and expressed her negative opinion of and criticism of this Balenciaga ad campaign in no way is feeding into any right-wing talking points. It's not like Balenciaga is some LGBT company that she's accusing of grooming kids. This isn't feeding into any moral panic that the right wing has created about the groomers and the smearing of LGBT folks as such. This has nothing to do with that. Again, this is a criticism of an ad campaign run by a giant corporation, a giant fashion company. It has nothing to do with the LGBT community. And I think that we should just give her the charitable take here and say, yeah, she's just expressing her uncomfortable reaction to this uncomfortable ad. And I think that's okay to acknowledge, again, regardless of how you feel about other things she may have said in the past, some of which admittedly I didn't agree with and that I don't agree with.
100%.
Also, thank you so much, Kaksu Karma, for the $2. Really appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. Do you want to watch a little bit more of this video, Zach? Maybe get into the why I left the left part? So yeah, let's skip ahead here to the very controversial why I left the left part, which some people have been posting on Twitter as proof that, you know, Shoe0nHead is now officially a right-wing grifter.
Part is she pretends to be gay so she can yell homophobe when you call her out. I'm convinced Shoe has no real political opinions and just says / believes whatever sounds good to her. Isn't that what an opinion is? Begging people to finally realize Shoe is literally just right-wing. Shoe is a conservative, no matter how many lefties try to say otherwise. There's a term coined by Lindsay Ellis that I think fits Shoe. She's a diet Nazi. Shoe0nHead is a right-wing propagandist. She is likely paid to be so, either directly or indirectly. I hate Shoe. She's not a leftist. She's a fascist who wants healthcare. Does this look like a fascist to you? She needs to be kicked out of the left like yesterday. She is a fascist. If you are denying it at this point, you are just a simp. Shoe0nHead is a right-wing paid propagandist infiltrating leftist spaces. She's a calculated and insincere plant, and she needs to be excommunicated. We need to boot Shoe from the left. She isn't a leftist. At this point, we just have to not let Shoe exist on the left anymore. Inevitably, she is going to leave the left, and it will not be surprising. So first of all, if I was going to leave the left over left-wing people being mean to me, I would have left the left like 8 years ago. I know it's hard for these people to understand because their extent of politics is quite literally Discord servers and Reddit communities. You cannot be kicked out of opinions. Like, I could call myself a right-winger right now, but I would be the shittiest right-winger ever, probably on account of the whole, I don't know, socialism thing. The whole being a socialist might get in the way. But more importantly, I don't know what about me calling shit like this out makes me not left-wing. It genuinely feels like some massive psyop. Like, I want workers' rights and for people to have their basic necessities met. I didn't sign up for this weird-ass shit. I'm just so tired of, like, trying to prove to these people that I'm left-wing. I'm just tired of being like, no, you don't understand. I voted for Bernie in 2016 and in 2020. I believe this and I believe that. I'm tired. I'm too old for this shit. I am exhausted. These people just want me to be some, like, progressive little shit lib, rising from the ashes of, like, the anti-SJW world. They want me on my hands and knees, groveling and apologizing for making, like, stupid level 1 baby edgy jokes about attack helicopters 5 years ago. They want me saying we need to destigmatize.
This right here, what she's outlining right now, fucking hate me if you want to, call me a fucking boomer right winger. I don't fucking. This is a problem that we have to address if we care about winning. If we care about winning at all, anybody that doesn't already like. I kind of agree with her already. From like, you know, not that we get called like right wingers ever, but for a while we were like, because we agreed with Jimmy Dore on force the vote, like we would, you know, like the Columbine motherfuckers and all that kind of shit. Like, you know, of course we got associated with a little, you know, but we're pretty on the fucking like, you know. I mean, it's hard for like that's just water off a duck's back because like I mean, Gavin and I have never in our lives been right wing since I was like a fucking 11-year-old arguing with him in the 5th grade. That was how far back you have to go to find me making a fucking, you know, a pro-Republican argument. Okay, so anyway, the fact that when people say they fucking support our shit and then they actively go out and do, like having the ticket to prove it of 2016 and 2020 voting for Bernie Sanders, saying you believe in Medicare for all, saying that we should eradicate homelessness in this country, yada yada yada. Okay, yeah, great, you're on our team. What the fuck is like why are we looking to kick people out when we're already getting our fucking ass handed to us, when we're already getting spanked to high hell? Okay, when was the last time a progressive won? Never, fucking never. Okay, never. At a high office, never. FDR, not even that progressive, guy. That's the best we can do. Fucking almost 100 years ago, this guy did the bare minimum. Okay, we'll hold that up as our fucking tantalizing goal, I guess. Fine. I get it. But now we're kicking people out. We're rooting people out left and right because they're concerned about pedophilia. Like, no, you have to talk about why that's a culture war issue that stems from, you know, right-wingers' hatred of the LGBTQ community. And like, sometimes there is problematic shit that occurs in this world, particularly in the high fashion and art world. And we should call that out and say, we as leftists do not want children in the workplace, particularly in place where there's not safety protocols. That's inherently a left-wing issue. It's not that hard to come out here and frame this for people. Okay, I'm not very smart and I've had a couple beers and I'm doing it right now. I don't understand people. It's like we're married to losing, and I hate that. And we're getting close to another fucking presidential election where not shit is going to happen for us, and we're going to fucking go through this all over again. This is a problem we have to address.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that you can't criticize Shoe0nHead when she says something that you disagree with or when she has a bad take. Go for it. No one's stopping you from that. We criticize people here on the Vanguard all the time. It's basically our fucking jobs, right? So it's not that anyone's above criticize or that we should keep our criticisms to ourselves. I think a vibrant and even oftentimes aggressive debate is a good thing overall for the left movement. But that being said, I totally agree with this kind of exclusionary attitude that she just spotlighted and gave some examples of where people are like, Shoe is not allowed to exist on the left, like gatekeeping this movement. No, you can criticize people if you have a specific disagreement with them. We do that all the time. And perhaps we've even been guilty of what we're condemning here at some points. You know, everyone's a hypocrite to some degree. But in no way way would I ever say that anyone we criticize on the show should not be welcome in the left, or that they should not be accepted on the left, despite a few areas of disagreement. And I think that is an important strategy to embrace as a movement that, like you said, Zach, needs some motherfucking people power.
100%. Gavin and I talk a lot about litmus tests on the left, and we talk about them in regards to candidates, but you have to have a different analysis for how you look at a political candidate and somebody that's out here saying they want to be a leader, you know, and how you look at somebody that's just here to vote, here to show up to a rally, right? Here to say, oh, I'm curious about this. I want to practice my fucking duty as a, you know, citizen, but, you know, I'm not running for office. I'm not trying. I'm not even working in politics. I'm just a regular person. I want to do this thing for my living, but I also want to. I have some civic duties and whatnot, right? We can't. Yeah, go fuck yourself, guy. Huh? Do you see that? Yeah. What about this? Like, that's never a message that's gonna win. That's how you lose. Okay, that's how you lose badly. Bernie understood that, right? He had a broad fucking approach to his movement. That's how we got people like Shoe0nHead in the left on the first place. The people who would have gone to fucking, you know, the like, oh, anti-SJW guy. I'm not saying that Shoe would have fucking voted for Trump, but we all know a fuck ton of her audience did. So let's not even pretend not. So, you know, but the option was either Bernie Sanders, right, and who a lot of her audience would have voted for, that then decided, no, hey, fuck, we're gonna go vote for Donald Trump instead. Because why? Because he offered some actual tangible change, which is what people were desperate for. Okay, and that's a unifier. Okay, and if you focus on your unifiers, like Bernie, I remember Kyle made a video about this probably before we were fucking even a channel, or a channel, definitely before we were a channel anybody gave a shit about. And Bernie was talking about how the Boston bomber, they were asking him about prisoners having the right to vote, right? And he was like, yeah, I think every prisoner should have the right to vote. I think I believe in that. They're all Americans. So they're subject to all laws. They should be able to participate in all elections, 100%. And they're like, you even think the Unabomber should be able to vote? And he's like, yeah, I think the Unabomber, terrible man, devastating man. But I believe that, you know, this is a country, we're a free country, and this man's subject to all laws. And these laws, they affect him, and he should be able to participate in the democracy. And they were like, and then Kyle was out here, and he was like, oh, Bernie, why did you give them that soundbite? You should have pivoted. Like, I agree with you, Bernie. That's the moral and correct position, but shut the fuck up while you're running for president, please. And it's like, don't compromise your values, but you don't have to say that when you're trying to win. And, you know, you can clip that and make me sound like a sellout, but at some point, the left has to do both. Not a bit. It's not that complicated, actually. It's really not that complicated. You have to learn how to play ball and strategize without abandoning any principles. You know, just fucking, I don't know. It really shouldn't be that hard. It's like, you don't betray anybody, but you focus on what you focus on, right? You focus on the shit that sells, right? The shit that resonates. Like, hey, you hate your insurance I don't know. We're way off on a hill here. We've abandoned the fucking Shoe0nHead video completely. As Bruce Stevens says, time is a flat circle. Let's go, drunkard. Neither of us are drunk, but I am rambling today. I apologize for that.
The tipsy guard, perhaps. Thank you so much, Bruce. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, we're having a good time tonight. Enjoyed breaking down this whole situation. It's an interesting conversation for sure. But yeah, really appreciate you, Bruce. Thanks so much. And thank you also, Hysteric Raider, for the $5. LOL. They want to give Shoe the boot. But Joe Biden gets a free pass. The mainstream left is its own worst enemy. They do not allow for redemption. And that's actually a pretty good point, Hysteric Raider. You look at a community like that of Vosh's, who's a friend of Shoe0nHead's. Vosh's community largely hates Shoe0nHead and basically constantly criticizes Vosh for in any way associating with her. But at the same time, they don't care at all when Vosh goes out here and praises Joe Biden, ironically or unironically, and calls himself an anarcho-Bidenist and basically advocates for supporting mainstream corporate Democrats who, in my opinion, are responsible for far worse crimes than Shoe0nHead, who, yes, has had some bad takes and some cringy opinions, but nothing that could amount to what a guy like Joe Biden is fucking responsible for, the goddamn criminal.
Dude, I know, 100%. And that's a Hysteric Raider. That's a beautiful point. That's a fabulous point. They're all like, shut the fuck up. Put a sock in a tarot read. Okay. They're all like, oh yeah, ignore that picture of Joe Biden just inappropriately like putting his hands on like any number of 100 photos. Do you remember that website that was going around, Gavin, before during the primaries, right around the time that Joe Biden and Bernie debated, and it was just a website full of the like random gifs and pictures of women that were making like horrid expressions while Joe Biden was like putting his hands on them as the most uncomfortable shit in the world. These people don't want to talk about that at all. They don't want to talk about that because it's not politically convenient for them. That's the kind of horse shit we have to stop doing. We have to talk about all of it, and you have to say, like, spell it out for people. And say this is the nuance, because apparently fucking any kind of deep thinking on the internet is impossible, right? But it's a fact of life, right? Like you have to break down. It's like, yes, Joe Biden did do all these things. Yes, he's a creepy old pervert. Maybe he'll get back in the Iran deal and avert nuclear war. That's what I'm predicating my argument on for voting for Joe Biden, right? And Gavin being like, I'm not voting for this old pervert who put over 1 million black men in jail for no reason, and talked about how there was a racial jungle in the school system if you integrated. Like, fuck him, I won't do it. I don't care what you say. Like, those are the two sides of the argument. You can see I fucked up in my calculations a little bit. So, we just have to install nuance on this. I don't know. What are you thinking, Gav?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, and appreciate the super chat once again. Kakzu Karma, thank you so much. Calling all gay people groomers isn't going to allow you to win either. Having Medicare for all isn't going to matter if you're dead because you went to a club. Of course. And anyone that does call gay people groomers, I don't think is really on the left. I don't think that Shoe0nHead has said that. I've disagreed with a few of her takes as far as it relates to the LGBT community. Like, I think she was one of the people along with Vosh that was kind of calling out the like kink at Pride, which I thought was all a little bit ridiculous. But I don't think it's fair to say that she's calling all gay people groomers. I haven't seen any rhetoric to that effect from Shoe. Maybe there's a take out there that I'm unfamiliar with. Maybe a few, kind of cringy statements, but I don't think that's quite fair to say.
Yeah, that's 100% no. And Gavin and I mean, we made points to explicitly pause this video throughout that point and dispel it multiple times throughout this conversation. Of course, that's not the case. You're crazy to fucking think that. But, and not that you think that, Kaksu Karma, anybody would be crazy to believe that, right? For the most part, most reasonable people do not believe that gay people are groomers. The problem begins when people on the left refuse to engage in any kinds of these conversations. When regular people on the internet have questions, they say, hey, this doesn't look right to me. I don't like the way this comes across. What's going on? And the left is like, you're just a right winger. You can't do that, because then that will drive them to the right wing audience, where they will then be fed something along the lines of all gay people are groomers. You can't allow that to happen. That's what we're actively trying to prevent right now, Kaksu, which I think you would agree with. It's about saying, hey, here, how do we unpack this? How do we talk about how the problems of this are workplace safety violations? There's child labor laws that we need to talk about. There's child protection laws that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the financial incentives of why somebody would put their child through this, why they would create this like amount of unsafety. How do we prevent this in the future? All people on the left support those things. So why can we not be grown-ups and just say, hey, no, this is actually a byproduct of capitalism. This is not a byproduct of any member of the LGBTQ community. This is a byproduct of people fetishizing extremes. Like, one of the reasons we talk about Harvey Weinstein, right? And he had basically, he could have paid any prostitute that he wanted, but what he wanted was the fucking like control. He wanted to like fucking punish these women, to hurt these women, to like take control of these women, and that's because he was a deranged, sick person that had been conditioned that he could have anything, that he could possess anything, and those are all the lessons that you learn from becoming incredibly wealthy under a hyper-capitalist system, and that breeds the kind. Bill Cosby became rich as fuck. He wanted to have sex with like lifeless fucking bodies that he'd like fucking drugged and all kinds of just depraved shit, right? And we have to talk about how like actually our value set as capitalist country creates that idea that you can own anything, including a person, and how that's perverse and wrong in any capacity, and how we need to have conversations about that to figure out ways to prevent it. But I just think it's crazy to immediately swipe everybody under the rug that like sees a child in like a BDSM outfit and thinks that there's something wrong with that. I'm like, no, dude, we need some of those people if you ever want to win an election. I promise you, a lot of the people that are concerned about that are registered voters. So I don't understand how you can think that it's a problem. Like, we're not falling for right-wing talking points. We're actively dispelling them. And I think that that's important. And not that Shoe was falling for right-wing talking points. Again, she was just pointing out that she thought that ad was sus, and we're responding to how you can be critical of that if you're a leftist as well, like we are. I don't know. I just thought the reaction to that, it kind of gave a lot of right-wingers the ammunition that they were looking for to pretend that the left doesn't care about pedophilia, that which is like insane to be. It's like impossible that that's true. It's unfucking like completely out of the question that would be true, but it gives the most deranged fucking commentators ammunition that makes the left look really bad to basically everybody. And I think we should try and make sure that doesn't happen any more than it already does.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, because it's related, let's just play a little bit more of this video where she actually addresses this exact discussion and talks a little bit about this and how she acknowledges this and disagrees with it. So just to hear Shoe's own words on this, let's hear her out.
Said it's like an abusive relationship. But I just want to go back to the more important, less personal aspect of this whole thing, and that is the connection between pedo and LGBT. So of course there are a lot of people on the right wing who are comparing the two. They have been doing this since the 1950s. The pedo smear has been thrown at gay people for decades. There's always been people on the right who will compare all the things I talk about, like the maps and stuff, to gay people. But it's very clear from my content, if you've watched my content, which I really don't think a lot of these people who are mad at me have done, it's very clear from my content that I've always pushed back on this. But what is new to me is now liberals coming out and saying I can't talk about this stuff, and that talking about it is somehow inherently anti-gay, which when you think about it is really, really bad. Shoe has never been a leftist. She's a right-wing reactionary trad wife who has an unhealthy obsession with making false equivalences between LGBTQ people and pedophiles. So first of all, let's be very clear here. I have been doing the opposite of this my entire career. This has been one of my focuses on this channel for years. And do you know what one of the core messages of a lot of those videos were? They are now trying to squeeze themselves into the LGBT community. And do not be mistaken, the LGBT community ain't having that shit. You cannot sit with the LGBT community. You can't sit with us! And for the people,
So yeah, she kind of addresses it there. At another point later in the video, she talks about how, as a bisexual person, she's had videos where she's had the bi pride flag displayed in the background, and she gets called a groomer from right wingers in her audience. So she's aware of that. I think she's pushed back on that. I don't think she specifically feeds into that. Although again, I haven't, seen every single take of hers ever. Maybe there's some stuff she said that I would disagree with. I just think it's unfair to group her in with the folks that are out here equating pedophilia to LGBT people or implying that gay folks are groomers.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not massively familiar with Shoe's content, but I do know that one of the hills that she's died on for a long time is the pedophilia hill, and so it just seemed strange that her being concerned about pedophilia would eject her from the left. That is not the fucking majority of leftists would want to strategically take, right? Oh, no, we are anti-pedophilia, we are pro fucking treatment for people who go to the doctor, stay away from children. That is clear as day. And also the fact that this Balenciaga issue is a clear example of workplace harm to children should be a perfect place for the left to introduce our concern about the broader workplace. And why is it structured like this? And why is the profit incentive to make things that are so provocative and so crazy? And is that moral? And can we have those conversations? And can't we decide to draw some lines in the sand where we don't dress up children like adults who are about to have sex? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think a lot of people on the left who are pro-regulation, who are pro-workplace safety, you have to be pro those things, or I would not consider you a leftist. We would all agree on that. So why are we turning this into an opportunity where the right wing can recruit off of a weird ass, confusion, or just, one person assuming the worst in the other? And I don't know. I just think that that's a bad look, and that and we'll get to this in 1 second, but I want to round out the Shoe0nHead thing. Is that's going to be a massive problem to the left if we ever start caring about winning. You have to learn how to work with people who slightly disagree with you, or just frame things differently than you, because their fucking upbringing is different, because their cultural value set is a little different. And you can't just say fuck off. You don't like, you can't do that if you want to win. This has to be a little bit about outreach. This has to be a little bit about like discussion, not compromising on your values. One of the poisons of the internet is that they think that a lot of people will entice you to believe that having a conversation, having a dialogue is somehow like the same thing as sacrificing your values because you didn't like try and choke out the person rhetorically and make them feel stupid as fuck when they disagreed with you. Sometimes it's about investing in somebody that you think could become an ally of your cause, and slowly but surely coaxing out those belief systems, moving them away. I'm not saying you have to do this with everybody if that's not your cup of tea, but you could at least not actively make the situation worse.
100%. And anyone saying that Shoe0nHead is a right winger is just full of shit, terminally online. She was like the biggest cheerleader of John Fetterman, big Bernie bro, huge advocate for Medicare for all and stuff. Again, it's not that she's above criticism, but I do think it's dumb when people say, oh, she's not on the list, she's a right winger. Like, okay, we get it. That's just a mischaracterization, terribly uncharitable and inaccurate. But yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for the $2. Thanks for letting us know. This is just now breaking. What was your initial reaction, Zach, to the FTX co-founder being finally arrested?
Okay, so I'm man, it's tough to say. I was shocked, right? I was a little surprised. I almost said shocked and surprised. That's how surprised I was. But I wasn't expecting this per se because I knew he had made his way to the Bahamas again. But of course, if the United States government really fucking wants you, the Bahamas is not the place to go because we can go get you there pretty easily. So yeah, FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried, I've been calling him Sam Banking Fraud for fun, arrested in the Bahamas. The founder and former CEO of the fallen FTX exchange will likely be extradited to the United States to face criminal charges. Here is what I think will happen. They will throw the fucking book at this guy because he blew a lot of rich people's money. And I hope that happens because I never frown when I see a banking fraud go down, as the old expression goes. But I think that's the main reason. We all know that the United States doesn't prioritize white collar crime at all. There's routine crime that occurs all over that the SEC doesn't regulate. And the reason that they don't do that is because it's like a revolving door between getting a job on Wall Street and like working to regulate Wall Street, just a byproduct of the massive amount of money lobbying that's been spent, and also the fact that a lot of people like Nancy Pelosi and her husband and Mitch McConnell and his wife and all those fuckers that have been in power forever, they like to make money off the stock market too, so they make it better for the investment bankers and themselves, and the poor be damned. But they don't like to prosecute white collar crime because they just think it's to-do because those people are their friends, and they didn't really mean it, and it was all just the poorest money kind of stuff that we saw when like not a single fucking big bank banker was prosecuted. The Lehman Brothers collapsed the entire economy in 2008. We didn't see a fucking massive overhaul in how we practice criminal justice in the white collar crime unit. But guys like Bernie Madoff, who fuck up with rich people's money, they typically get the book thrown at them. It's like, yeah, let's make a fucking showcase of this guy. Let's make him the fucking picture of what happens if you fuck over the rich in this country. I'm hoping that we get at least that from FTX, because the other thing is that he gets off like Martin Shkreli did with like a couple years, but it's like, oh, fuck you, you twat. Like, you caused so much harm. People have gone decades for the amount of crime. Not that I'm advocating for prison, just a little bit of fucking like, what's the word for it? Like equal treatment in this country. Like, hey, if you're going to punish people like we do for the time being, why the fuck is this guy who stole billions of dollars not being treated at least as bad as the guy that did a fucking car robbery? Like, jacked a $10,000 fucking Toyota Corolla, and now he's doing 8.5 years, a hard time, versus this guy who blows $1 billion and gets to do 48 months in a fucking like men's camp in fucking, the Rocky Mountains or some shit. I don't fucking know. You know what I'm talking about, Gavin?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much, Jonathan, for the super chat. Really appreciate letting us know. Breaking news. And thank you, Hysteric Raider, for the $2. LOL, Biden is a Balenciaga ad that writes itself. Yeah, it's crazy. As Zach was referencing earlier, how many just absolutely terrifying, stomach-churning clips, GIFs, photos that are out there of Joe Biden touching girls and women inappropriately, sniffing them, touching their hair. It's sickening. It really is sickening.
You said sniffing, but it's true.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. Anyway, thanks so much, Hysteric Raider.
Imagine being an old man and sniffing somebody, bro. You have to be a fucking pervert. It's like you have like sniffing a young child. Like, I don't know how you could get the fucking like motivation to do that. That's you. I question you immediately if you fucking sniff somebody.
Yeah,
especially.
that's why I thought it was crazy that so many liberals were like, "Oh, there's nothing there." When it came to the Tara Reid story, they're like, "Oh, he could never do that. Good old Uncle Joe." And I'm like, "Have you not seen these fucking photos, bro? Like, do you not know what this man does with his hands when he's in the presence of vulnerable young women? Like, what the fuck, dude? It's the most believable thing in the world to me that he would sexually assault someone." Anyway, really appreciate the $2 hysteric raider, and thank you once again, Jerk Dad asked for the $9.99. Going to talk to Bree about Neo's algorithm on Callin in about 30 minutes here. So I really do hope you guys live react this weekend or whatever. Yeah, I think we're going to have to get out of here in just a few minutes. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to react to that on today's live stream, but I promise we'll work it into a future live stream and give you a shout out, Jerk Dad ass. Really appreciate the super chats as always, and have fun chatting with Bree. Hopefully you get in her queue. You also added that we've both been an inspiration, and thank you so much. That really means a lot. Really meaningful that we've inspired some smaller channels like yourself. So thank you so much, Jerk Dad ass, for the super chats.
I was gonna say you should have set your sights a little higher for inspiration, but Gavin was much more polite than me. I was giving you I was shooting from the hip, bro. I was giving you the straight shot. I was like, maybe you could, look at like who would you say Hassan Piker besides him, but on YouTube, who's like the king of what we do
on YouTube? It's probably, I mean,
H3. We react to a lot of shit.
Yeah, that's fair. Either way, thanks so much, Jerk Dad ass. Really appreciate that. So glad you're enjoying the show, and I promise we'll get around to reacting to your vid. Anything else you wanted to add to today's show, Zach, before we get out of here?
No, I feel like I said a lot on this show. I probably said slightly too much on this show, but I just think it's something that the left has to reckon with. And maybe I didn't have the most eloquent way of laying it out, but I think it's a real problem if we allow ourselves to be positioned this way. Maybe not because of our goals and ambition that we have internally amongst the left. Like we all share the same goal of we want this targeting of the LGBTQ community gone. We want this stigma surrounding LGBTQ people as groomers to be gone. We are actively debating that at every opportunity. We make it a pillar of this show, I hope. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to stand and pretend that I don't care about pedophilia. That is the wrong calculation. That is a political trap that has been set by the right wing, and we are walking right the fuck into it. Can't have that. I'm a little too smart for such a fucking easy attempt to pivot us against something that we all know is wrong. We all know that ad was unacceptable. You cannot have children in the workplace being dressed up like that. That is 100% a rape scenario, a potential rape scenario, a potential cause of PTSD or harm for this child. We just, as a left, demand more from our workplace safety. End of discussion. We can have more of a discussion as to why it's wrong, but that alone should convince you. And I just feel like I'm a little bit perplexed as to why it all went down like this. And I was somebody that was spending the whole time here giving the benefit of the doubt. I still think it's a workplace violation. I still think it's a trap to make us look like we don't care about the actual plight of children, which is a goddamn joke. The right wing has spent the last fucking 50 years trying to make sure that mothers who have single children get less money, right? They call them welfare queens. To be fair, the Democratic Party villainized these people too, in a despicable and disgusting way, in a way that I would never, ever, ever acquiesce to, but made it a problem to take care of the hungry children in this country. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, it's a real issue.
And plus, this Balenciaga thing had nothing to do with LGBT people. It literally had nothing to do with it. It wasn't created by gay people. Balenciaga is not like a explicitly LGBT organization. You can condemn this specific ad campaign and acknowledge the fact that it's kind of creepy and problematic without even bringing up the gay community. So I don't even know why that's been brought into the conversation by some of these liberals who are mad at Shoe0nHead. I get it. You might not have liked her previous takes. I've disagreed with some of her previous takes, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the specific conversation. And it does kind of just make us look dumb and unsophisticated to be like, well, yeah, it's just a right-wing talking point when it has nothing to do with that. So I totally agree with what you said, Zach. I think you put it beautifully.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm here for, folks. That eloquence. No, I fumbled up my own words like 40 fucking times, and I do this professionally, but that's okay. The people forgive us. Yeah, I guess that's about wraps it. Special shout out to the patron community, you lovely fuckers that keep the lights on here. I swear to God, Gavin and I depend on you so dearly, so we really appreciate you. We love you all dearly and appreciate your support. Shout out to the Vanguardians, Super Vanguardians, comrades, and everybody else. You're all comrades in our hearts. Just hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And here's one other thing, one observation. YouTube is just on a crazy train because I watch a lot of bartending YouTube, something you wouldn't expect to be at all butchered by the algorithm. And even those guys bitch about how you better fucking do every single fucking step if you want to see my video on your main page. Because YouTube has its own priorities with what it wants to show up on your main page every day. That's why there's some weird shit all the time. So anyway, make sure you go through the steps if you actually give a fuck and you want to see when we go live. And Gavin and I assure you we're going to be going live very routinely towards the end of this year and into 2023. We gotta ramp on up for the 2024 election that's coming up here. So super excited for all that.
100%. Thanks so much to the patrons. Links in the description. There's also a PayPal link if you're feeling generous and want to help support the show. We really appreciate all of the support from you guys. It makes what we do possible. And a huge shout out to everyone that tuned in to today's show. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next live stream. We should be going live tomorrow, so you're not going to want to miss that. Huge shout out to you also, Christina. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. I'm only getting on the stream late. Just wanted to say hi. Well, thank you so much as always, Christina. We love seeing you in the chat. Hopefully you're able to rewind the stream back to the beginning or wait till it ends and you can restart it or something like that if you want to hear what we talked about today. But we really appreciate you chiming in and always appreciate the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate you guys tuning in today. Had a great show, I thought. And yeah, shout out to you, Christina. Really appreciate the $4.99. Ready to eat some Thai food. I'm a very hungry boy.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. Either way, thank you so much, Christina. Thank you, everyone that tuned in today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, hit up the link in the description if you're interested in supporting the show and keeping us sustainable. We really appreciate all of the support from you guys. Shout out to you, Drew. No problem whatsoever. Hope you enjoy our commentary from today if you're able to check out the replay at some point. So thanks so much for everyone tuning in. See you guys tomorrow.
100%. Much love to the Vanguard regulars. We love to see you in the chat. All right, guys.